The galaxy learned the wrong lesson about humanity on the day humans asked for peace. The Triarch Council chamber hung above the gas giant Virex like a jeweled parasite, its gravity anchors humming as artificial suns bathed 1,000 species in curated starlight. This was where wars were postponed with speeches and resumed with signatures. Where predators smiled behind protocol and called it civilization. And where humanity was invited only to be humiliated. Ambassador Elias Rourke stood alone at the center dais. No honor guard. No fleet projection. No threat display. Just a man in a black diplomatic coat, shoulders squared, hands resting calmly at his sides. The coat hid scars, burns from plasma, shrapnel etched into old bone, but his eyes hid worse things. The kind of memories you only get when entire cities scream at once. Across the chamber, the Card Dominion occupied the highest tier. They always did. Chitinous bodies plated in obsidian armor, eyes like burning coals, mandibles etched with kill runes older than human civilization. Their high warlord leaned forward, talons clicking against crystal. So, a rasped voice amplified until it vibrated in Rourke's chest. This is humanity. A ripple of amusement passed through the chamber. Tentacles flexed. Feathers ruffled. Bioluminescent hides pulsed with mockery. Rourke didn't react. You crawl from a death world. The warlord continued. Bleeding from your own history, and now you stand before us asking for recognition? We're not asking, Rourke said evenly. His voice carried without amplification. We're proposing coexistence. Laughter exploded. The Virexian consul, an ancient, semi-liquid intelligence suspended in a shimmering field, oozed closer to its translator node. Coexistence requires leverage, human. You control 3 marginal systems. Your fleets are quaint. The Talrexian admiral joined in, avian head cocked with cruel curiosity. Your species has not even mastered adaptive shielding. You still fire solid projectiles like barbarians. Rourke inclined his head. They work. More laughter. The Car High warlord raised a talon, silencing the chamber. Let us be efficient. Your colonies sit astride hyperlane arteries vital to Dominion logistics. You will vacate them. Your population will be relocated. Those who resist will be corrected. Rourke's jaw tightened, just a fraction. You're proposing ethnic cleansing, he said. The warlord's mandibles flexed in something like a grin. We call it optimization. Rourke looked around the chamber. At the species who had lost wars to the Car. At the ones who paid tribute for protection. At the ones who pretended neutrality while benefiting from blood. You've studied our history, he said. At least enough to know we don't respond well to threats. The Virexian pulsed dismissively. Your history is a catalogue of self-inflicted catastrophes. Nuclear wars. Climate collapse. Resource conflicts. You nearly erased yourselves without our help. Rourke smiled faintly. It wasn't friendly. And yet, he said, we're still here. The Talrexian admiral scoffed. Barely. You mistake survival for strength. Rourke took a breath. He hadn't planned to say what came next, but plans had stopped mattering the moment the car crossed into human space 2 weeks earlier, quietly, illegally, and with plausible deniability. We didn't come here because we're weak, Rourke said. We came because we're tired. The chamber stilled, confusion replacing mockery. Tired of burying civilians, he continued. Tired of rebuilding worlds you'd call expendable. Tired of watching empires like yours mistake restraint for fear. The Car warlord leaned back. You speak boldly for a species on the brink of extinction. Rourke met its burning gaze. You assume extinction scares us. A murmur rippled through the council. Human, the Virexian warned. Temper your rhetoric. Rourke ignored it. You see negotiations as a way to extract advantage, he said. We see them as a way to avoid what comes next. And what is that? The Talrexian admiral asked, talons tapping nervously now. Rourke's eyes flicked to the massive viewport, where the curve of Virex glowed like a bruise beneath the stars. Finality. Silence fell, thick, uncomfortable. The Car-High Warlord rose to its full height, towering. This council does not respond to veiled threats. Good, Rourke replied softly. Because that wasn't a threat. He activated his wrist display. No holograms bloomed. No data scrolled. Just a single line of text, transmitted on open council channels, readable by every species present. Humanity will not surrender territory. Humanity will not accept subjugation. Humanity will not be ruled. The warlord's mandibles clacked in irritation. Then you leave us no choice. Rourke nodded once. You never wanted one. The vote was swift. The Triarch Council denied humanity recognition. Sanctioned corrective military action. Authorized the Car Dominion to enforce compliance by any means necessary. The chamber erupted in approval. As Rourke turned to leave, the High Warlord called after him, voice dripping with contempt. You should have begged, human. Begging sometimes earns mercy. Rourke stopped at the threshold. He didn't turn around immediately. When my people beg, he said at last, it's usually over a grave. He looked back then, eyes cold, voice steady. We came here to give you a chance to walk away. The warlord laughed. From you? Rourke's expression hardened. No, he said. From yourselves. He left the chamber as the laughter resumed behind him. 3 standard days later, without declaration or warning, Car war fleets crossed into human space. The galaxy applauded. And humanity stopped asking for peace. The Car invasion began exactly the way the galaxy expected. With arrogance. Their fleets poured through the hyperlanes in perfect formation, dreadnoughts first, their hulls the size of cities, obsidian armor etched with conquest glyphs. Behind them came carrier swarms, troop barges, planetary pacifiers. The kind of armada that had ended civilizations before breakfast. Observers across the galaxy watched the live feeds with detached fascination. Betting markets opened. Analysts predicted human collapse within weeks. Human space looked empty. No grand defensive line. No heroic last stand. Just silence. Admiral Kreshtal, the Car's most celebrated butcher, studied the tactical display from his command throne. They flee, he declared. As prey should. Then the first human world died. New Carthage was a mining colony. Low population, minimal defenses, nothing worth a Dominion fleet's attention. Kreshtal ordered a token force to seize it intact. They never made orbit. Without warning, the planet's core destabilized. Antimatter charges, buried decades earlier, detonated in perfect sequence. The crust split. The mantle flashed white. New Carthage tore itself apart. The shockwave erased 3 Car cruisers outright and sent molten planetary debris screaming through the formation at relativistic speed. 2 more ships vanished, their shields collapsing under forces they were never designed to stop. Silence replaced triumph on the command deck. What? An officer began. A human transmission cut in, broadcast on every channel, calm and almost polite. Colony evacuated. Asset denied. Kreshtal stared at the expanding cloud of debris where a world had been. They destroyed their own planet. He whispered. Yes, another officer said, voice unsteady. Deliberately. The Car had conquered thousands of worlds. They had never encountered an enemy willing to burn its own flesh to deny them a meal. The advance continued, but cautiously now. At Vesta Reach, the hyperlane collapsed as human gravity anchors overloaded, crushing a carrier group into a ribbon of twisted metal. At Helios Gate, human ships appeared just long enough to fire, then vanished into micro-jumped shadows, luring pursuit into minefields that tore Dominion vessels apart from the inside. Humans didn't hold territory. They poisoned it. Every retreat was planned. Every loss calculated. Automated factories, hidden in asteroid belts, replaced destroyed ships faster than Car intelligence believed possible. Civilian transports moved populations away from frontlines weeks before invasion forces arrived. It wasn't chaos. It was doctrine. Kreshtal slammed a talon into the console as another report came in. They're abandoning worlds faster than we can take them. They aren't abandoning them, a strategist replied quietly. They're turning them into weapons. The second shock hit the galaxy harder than the first. Human media hijacked Triarch broadcast relays. No speeches. No threats. Just raw footage. Car shock troops executing civilians. Car overseers herding survivors into transports. Cities reduced to ash by pacification strikes. The feeds ran uncensored. Across 1,000 worlds, populations watched the Dominion's methods stripped of euphemism. Species who had paid tribute suddenly recognized the cost of protection. On Earth, the response was immediate. Veterans were recalled. Retirements cancelled. Ancient warships, mothballed and forgotten, were dragged back into service and refitted with brutal efficiency. Civilian industries retooled overnight, mining corporations producing armor, entertainment firms repurposed into propaganda engines. Elections were suspended. No one protested. A single unified command replaced every fractured authority humanity had ever argued over. Its first order was short. All restraint protocols are revoked. The third wave wasn't a defense. It was a counterstroke. Human fleets emerged from dark space, unheralded, untracked. Their ships were ugly things, over-armored slabs of metal bristling with kinetic lances, mass drivers, and weapons that exploited relativistic physics the galaxy had deemed inefficient, unethical, or both. Human captains didn't broadcast demands. They broadcast coordinates. Car border worlds fell in hours. Not occupied. Not pacified. Erased. Planetary shields failed under sustained kinetic bombardment that never gave them time to recharge. Oceans boiled. Atmospheres burned away. Orbital habitats were cracked open like eggs. One car governor transmitted a surrender plea, mandibles slick with panic. A human voice answered, dry and amused. Request denied. You had your turn. The galaxy's betting markets shut down. The Triarch Council called an emergency session. For the first time in recorded history, the predators were no longer certain they were hunting prey. Because the humans weren't fighting to win territory. They were fighting to make sure no one ever tried again. Fear didn't save the car. It only slowed them for a heartbeat. Within weeks, the Dominion began to fracture. Vassal systems, long resentful of car dominion, seized the opportunity to revolt. Trade networks collapsed as hyperlanes became death traps, filled with automated human interdiction drones that didn't discriminate between military or civilian traffic. Starports emptied, and entire fleets were stranded, cut off from supply lines that no longer existed. Admiral Kreshtal, once the pride of Car Command, watched in disbelief from a shattered flagship orbiting his homeworld. Every report twisted the knife: colonies destroyed before invasion, hyperlanes turned into tombs, car fleets shredded by weapons that ignored shields, or worse, by the very planets they tried to conquer. The galaxy watched in silence. For the first time, every predator species realized that humanity was not just surviving, they were adapting, and adapting with ruthless elegance. Rourke, no longer simply an ambassador, now commander of the unified human fleet, stood aboard the UNV Blackstone, overlooking a burning car world through reinforced glass. A young officer shifted nervously beside him, eyes wide with the shock of their first planetary annihilation. Sir, they're requesting talks. The Council wants us to negotiate, the officer said. Rourke didn't turn. His gaze stayed on the fiery horizon. Did they stop attacking? No, sir. Then there's nothing to discuss. The human strategy was horrifyingly simple: strike at the root. Infrastructure, fleet command, logistics hubs, gone before the Dominion could even understand what hit them. Colonies were turned into traps, not occupied. Worlds that resisted were erased, not annexed. And when human fleets did appear, they were not there to fight, they were there to end. A shocking revelation came when intelligence recovered car archival data. The invasion was never about hyperlane control. It was population control, a periodic culling to suppress rising species before they could challenge old powers. Humanity wasn't the first to be targeted. They were the last. When car fleets attempted to escape, The humans had already laid ambushes along hyperlanes, waiting with weapons that could crush ships before they even realized they were under fire. Worlds fell silently. Star systems collapsed into controlled chaos, all choreographed like a dance of annihilation. At last, the High Warlord of the car was dragged before a human tribunal. Its obsidian carapace glinted in the harsh light. Mandibles clicked, a sound more animal than noble. "You could have ruled the galaxy," it hissed. "Why destroy it?" Rourke leaned forward, voice low and cold. "Because you built it wrong." The execution was broadcast live across the galaxy, uncut. Every species, predator and prey alike, witnessed the final act of human justice. Silence followed the feed, a silence filled with horror, awe, and a creeping, impossible realization. The predators had learned, too late, that humans were not negotiators. Humans did not bargain. Humanity did not ask for mercy. They simply ended the conversation. And the galaxy would never forget it. Part 4. Years passed, but the memory of the human counterstroke lingered like a scar across the galaxy. Trade routes reopened, but only along hyperlanes humans deemed safe. Borders were redrawn, not by treaties, but by human cartographers who measured advantage, not diplomacy. Councils were formed, carefully excluding species deemed structural threats. Humanity didn't take thrones. They didn't need to. They had leverage, control, and the memory of a lesson no one would ever dare forget. At a frontier outpost on the edge of charted space, a half-cantina, half-listening post, the nervous chatter of alien merchants filled the air. A Talrexian trader adjusted his feathers nervously as a grizzled human veteran sipped whiskey at the bar. "You really don't negotiate?" the alien asked, eyes darting to the holoscreens showing distant human patrols. The human smirked, exposing a set of teeth that had seen too many battlefields. "Sure we do," he said, voice dry. The Talrexian relaxed, until the human added, with a tilt of his head, "After the war." Elsewhere, Rourke stood on Earth, older now, heavier with ghosts he carried silently. The stars stretched endless above him, but they no longer represented mystery or hope. They represented lessons hard-earned and battles survived. A junior diplomat approached hesitantly. "Sir, do you think they'll ever forgive us?" Rourke turned slowly, eyes reflecting the cold glint of distant worlds. "No," he said. "But they'll remember. And that's enough. Because humanity had taught the galaxy a truth older than hyperdrives and empires. We do not seek war. We do not crave annihilation. But when pushed, when cornered, when the predators come to take what we built, humans do not negotiate. We end the conversation. And somewhere, between the stars that trembled beneath our fleets and the silent echoes of destroyed worlds, that lesson resonated forever, a warning written in fire, steel, and uncompromising resolve. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. Once. Never again.